Chapter 41 The Cold and Arrogant Big Black Cat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Luo Li's shout, Yi Yun in the car smiled softly. Lice the size of a hat are indeed rare. Moreover, each one of these lice has a cultivation level of around the God-shaping realm. The body is as hard as iron. It is difficult to inflict serious damage on these lice without giving it a fatal blow. Yi Yun's eyes looked into the distance. He smiled calmly. He was not in a hurry now, just in time to continue practicing for these two little guys. In the battle with the Sword God Sect, the two little guys were defeated. He was just one step away from breaking through to the Xinxiao realm. Now in this White Mist Valley, there is just an opportunity for two people to hone their skills. Senior sister, I have never seen such big lice before. Each of their cultivation levels is in the realm of shaping the gods. This is really terrifying. Lord Grimm also looked shocked. He kept swinging his sword to kill the big lice flying over. These lice have no wings though, but each one has a profound state and has the ability to fly. Wave after wave of lice army attacked the black carriage. Although Luo Li and Jun Maxiao are both very powerful, but in the face of countless lice, the two of them still couldn't completely protect the carriage. The weird thing is, when some lice flew towards the dark horse, they suddenly gave up on the dark horse and turned around to pounce on Luo Li and Lord Grimm. You little lice, do you still want to take advantage of your Uncle Ma? Black Horse sneezed, sneering disdainfully in his heart. As for the guy deep in the white mist, it had already seen it. In the eyes of Uncle Ma, he was pitifully weak. However, since the master gave his disciples a chance to practice, it was too embarrassed to take action, so I can only scare away some lice that besieged me. Some lice flew towards the carriage, seeming to want to destroy it. But after landing on the carriage, he was blown away by an invisible force. Don't worry about the carriage. Just use your strength and kill these lice. Yi Yun saw Luo Li and Jun Grimm standing on the carriage and drawing swords. He shook his head and said with a smile. Okay, ancestor. Luo Li and Jun Maxiao looked at each other, immediately activated the 9 transformations of the dragon, jumped into the white mist, and began to kill the overwhelming lice. The highest of these lice is only at the 7th level of the God-shaping realm, and the lowest is at the 1st level of the God-shaping realm. Due to the large number, Luo Li and Jun Grimm had been killing for a full hour, but they still couldn't see the end. The two of them couldn't help but be shocked. What mysterious power is there in this white mist that breeds so many lice? They killed for another 6 or 7 hours. The number of lice in the sky became less and less, and then the lice roared back into the white mist and disappeared. Luo Li and Lord Grimm could finally take a breath. After 7 hours of fighting, the two of them had no chance to breathe. It was really stressful. Luo Li, in particular, felt extremely disgusted by those vicious-looking lice. She was afraid that the lice would pounce on her, pierce her skin, and suck all her blood. Come on, let's go take a look at the front. Yi Yun smiled softly. The black carriage continued walking towards the depths of the foggy valley. Luo Li and Jun Maxiao jumped on the carriage, sat down and took a breath. Junior brother, you said the lice here are so terrible. I'm really worried that senior sister didn't run out, Luo Li said with a sad face. Well. Lord Grimm was so sad that tears flowed out. At this time, Yi Yun's voice sounded faintly. These lice have a very nasty taste and look down on those monks with low cultivation levels, so your senior sister Su Wanyi will never be attacked by these lice. Upon hearing the ancestor's words, Luo Li and Jun Maxiao's eyes suddenly lit up. If these lice do not attack senior sister, then senior sister's chance of survival is still very high. Maybe, after the senior sister escaped from this white mist valley, she is now hiding in an unknown place. The black horse pulled the carriage forward for about a stick of incense. The fog began to thin. At this time, Luo Li and Jun Maxiao suddenly felt a strong pressure, pressing down like an overwhelming force from not far away. What kind of cultivation is this? Lord Grimm was surprised. In front of this kind of cultivation, he felt like an ant. Luo Li licked her lips but said nothing. After the black horse traveled several hundred meters, suddenly all the fog dissipated. There is a silver waterfall in front, pouring down from the top of the mountain and falling into a deep green pool, stirring up countless snow-white waves. There is a blood-red lotus growing in this pool of water. This red lotus has 9 leaves and exudes amazing spiritual energy fluctuations. at first glance, it is a fairy grass of extraordinary quality. There was a big black cat lying next to the pool, he curled up into a ball and seemed to be sleeping soundly. It's strange, how could you come to this place? That a low voice suddenly sounded in the surrounding space, then the big black cat stretched its body, it shook its body lazily, raised its head, and looked at the black carriage in front of it. The ordinary black horse in front was ignored by it didn't even pay attention to the black carriage behind it. Finally, it set its sights on Luo Li and Junma Xiao. Hey, it's really strange, why do these two little dolls also have the blood of dragons? That the big black cat made a surprised sound, it suddenly jumped down from the stone and floated in the air, looking down at Luo Li and Junma Xiao. TSK, are these two little kids even more powerful than the previous one? They have actually reached the 10th level of the God-shaping realm. If you go one step further, you will reach the Divine Bridge realm. With such qualifications and cultivation, even in the Litian dynasty, he is definitely considered a top genius. It's all because the master was too anxious at the time. If he had left later, he might have met these two better geniuses. The big black cat muttered to himself, with a hint of fanaticism in his eyes. Luo Li looked at the big cat and felt great pressure on her body. She couldn't even see through the cultivation level of the big black cat in front of her. However, listening to what the big cat said to himself, she seemed to understand another meaning. Senior sister Su Wanyi seemed to have been taken away by the owner of this big cat. Thinking of this, Luo Li raised her beautiful little face, looked at the big black cat in front of her, and asked in a deep voice, "Have you met my senior sister 3 months ago?" That the big cat stuck out its blood-red tongue, licked the black hair on its body, and said, "Are you talking about the little girl who has the same dragon bloodline as you?" Where is she now? Luo Li's breathing suddenly became rapid. "Why should I tell you?" That the big black cat gently licked its black fur and replied politely, it simply didn't want to pay attention to Luo Li, a little human monk in the God-shaping realm. Chapter 42 The Whereabouts of Senior Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. See how arrogant this big black cat is. Luo Li was helpless. She lowered her head and clenched her fists. At this time, only the ancestors could take action. However, I feel a little relieved now that senior sister Su Wanyi is not dead yet. This news made Luo Li somewhat happy. The same goes for Lord Grimm next to him. Pony, go and teach it how to behave. In the car, a gentle voice suddenly sounded. Hey, is there someone else in this carriage? That the big black cat blinked and said with some surprise. It clearly glanced into the carriage just now and didn't find anyone in the carriage. Were you dazzled just now? Okay, sir. The big black horse grinned, showing his white teeth. Luo Li and Lord Grimm shivered at the same time when they saw the big dark horse's smile. This big dark horse is extraordinary. He is also an unfathomable being. The big black horse trembled slightly, threw off the reins, and separated from the black carriage. Then he looked up at the big black cat in the sky, grinned and said, "Little kitten, get down here quickly, Grandpa Ma." Hey, you're a big dark horse, you have such a bad tone. That the big black cat was angry. He was about to stretch out his paw to teach this big black horse a lesson. Suddenly, the big black horse's hooves lightly stepped on the ground, and a loud bang sound came from the big black cat's ears. The sound was earth-shattering, as if the end of the world was coming. In an instant, it felt dazed and fell from mid-air. With a plop, it fell to the ground. Ouch, I've knocked you Uncle Cat to death. The big black cat turned over on the ground and stood up quickly. The long black hair on its body stood up, and its entire body was tightly hunched together. Looking at the big black horse in front of it, its eyes showed an extremely frightened look. This big dark horse actually made a mistake. Little kitten, do you know that your Uncle Ma is awesome? That the big black horse walked forward gently, the aura on his body getting stronger and stronger. The big black cat huddled up and suddenly started to tremble. Let me go, what kind of cultivation is this? It is simply more powerful than its owner. You know, its owners are already super strong in the realm of life and death. However, the aura exuded by this big dark horse actually transcends the realm of life and death, making it unable to tell which realm the opponent's cultivation level is. It immediately became timid. Uncle Ma, I am too young to see Taishan, so please bear with me. The big black cat knelt on the ground, raised its two front paws, and kept waving. its big black jewel-like eyes overflowed with flattery. The big black horse came over, raised its black hoof, and tapped the cat's head twice. "Kitten, master asked me to teach you a lesson, how to behave." As he said that, an unimaginable terrifying force suddenly came from the horse's hooves, and then the big black cat was pressed into the ground. The big black cat raised its head with difficulty and muttered, "Uncle Ma, please spare my life." The big black horse stepped up, stepped on the big black cat's face, and laughed loudly. "My master's 2 disciples asked you just now, and you actually put on such a proud and mean look. Today, you Uncle Ma will stomp on your face." As he said that, the black horse's hooves pushed hard and pushed the big cat into the ground. "Uncle Ma, don't hit people in the face, or I'll give you a spanking." The big black cat was about to cry without tears. He quickly covered his head with his paws and then raised his plump butt. The big dark horse suddenly became angry. "This little kitten of yours is so dirty. It's covered in lice. You need to take a bath." As he said that, he suddenly pushed with his hoof, and the big black cat flew into the water pool next to it. With a plop, the big black cat fell into the pool. Seeing how majestic the big black horse was, and how miserable the big black cat was with one strike, Luo Li and Lord Grim couldn't help but burst into laughter. "This big dark horse is so awesome." Even the 2 of them couldn't see the state of the big black cat. They didn't expect that the big black horse would be taken care of as soon as it got out of the hooves. The 2 of them couldn't help but feel even more inscrutable about the strength of the big dark horse. The car curtain was raised, and Yi Yun suddenly walked out. He took a step towards the edge of the pool, stood on the stone, and looked at the bloody 9-leaf lotus in the pool. "Are you guarding the 9-leaf blood lotus here?" Yi Yun's eyes fell lightly on the big black cat floating in the water. This big black cat was frightened by the big black horse. He kept rubbing mud on his body in the pool. "It really doesn't like bathing, so it has a lot of lice on its body." The lice in the white mist just now were all on it. Usually, these lice stay in its fur. These lice will fly out only when they encounter a smell they like. The big black cat looked at the immortal-like young man on the stone, and his pupils shrank sharply. The man in front of him looked like a mortal, without any aura of cultivation, but it gives people a feeling of supreme light, as if a god is standing there, blooming with infinite divine light. It has never encountered this mysterious feeling before, and as soon as the man opened his mouth, he revealed the mystery of its being here, which shocked the big black cat. "Little kitten, what is my master asking you? Answer quickly, otherwise Uncle Ma will serve you with the criminal law." The big black horse came to the edge of the pool and knocked the stone with its hoof. The big black cat was suddenly frightened. It immediately used its magic power to shake out all the lice from its body, then opened its mouth, sucked all the lice into its mouth and ate them. After all, that scary big black horse thinks it's dirty, probably because of these lice. It stood on the water, looked at the immortal-like young man, and said tremblingly, "Master, I am indeed here to guard the 9-leaf blood lotus. Where is the girl who came here 3 months ago?" Yi Yun glanced over. The big black cat was frightened, and suddenly felt like he was being looked at. It knew that the young man in front of it was also an incredible and powerful man. It couldn't even tell the cultivation level of the big dark horse, so it couldn't even tell the cultivation level of the young man in front of it. It is really unimaginable. When did such a strong man appear on Sanyuan continent? "Master, when that little girl came, my master happened to be here. He saw that the little girl had extraordinary qualifications and had the blood of a dragon, so he took her as his disciple and took her to the Litian dynasty." Litian dynasty? Yi Yun muttered the name gently, then shook his head. 100,000 years. The world outside has changed so much. He had never heard of this Litian dynasty, but its level should be far higher than that of the Kamikaze dynasty. "Which sect is your master from? What is his cultivation level?" Yi Yun asked calmly. "Master Qi, my master is a great monk in the realm of life and death. He is the master of the divine sect of 10,000 beasts," the big black cat said respectfully. "Speak politely in front of the master. Can a great monk in the realm of life and death be considered a great monk in the realm of life and death?" The big black horse grinned and raised its hoof angrily. An illusory shadow of horse hoofs flew out. Immediately, the big black cat was photographed deep in the pool. Chapter 43, Tearing the Void. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Plop sound, the big black cat was shaken to the deepest part of the pool by a powerful force. This pool is extremely deep, hundreds of meters deep. The big black cat landed on its face at the bottom of the pool and took a mouthful of sand. It turned over suddenly and spit out the sand in its mouth under the water. At this time, the big black cat looked aggrieved and wanted to cry without tears. The great monk in the realm of life and death, is he still wrong? In the Lydian dynasty, the great monks in the realm of life and death were the top existences, but in Uncle Ma's mouth, he turned into an insignificant little monk. This Uncle Ma, what kind of cultivation is it? And its owner is as radiant as a god, but he can't see any cultivation. Hooray! The water splashed, and the big black cat emerged from the bottom of the pool again. Uncle Ma, the kitten knows that it was wrong. Please forgive me. As soon as the big black cat came up, he knelt on the water and kowtowed. The big black horse snorted coldly and said nothing. There was a faint smile on Yi Yun's face. He suddenly stretched out his hand a little, and the kitten's head lowered. The next second, Yi Yun withdrew his hand, and the big black cat returned to normal. He just did this operation just to verify the authenticity of what the big black cat said. Apparently, the big cat wasn't lying. Su Wanyi was indeed brought to the 10,000 Beasts sect of the Lydian dynasty by the big cat owner. Luo Li, Lord Grim, you too, do you want to meet your senior sister? Yi Yun looked at the two of them with a faint smile on his face. Think about it, ancestor, I haven't had my senior sister for more than 3 months. I really miss her so much. Luo Li was about to cry. Lord Grim next to him actually started crying. It seemed that this little boy's tears were lower than Luo Li's. If you want to see her so much, I will capture her now. Yi Yun said with a smile. He gently raised his right arm. During the lifting process, white light slowly emerged from his right arm. Finally, the white light turned out to be so dazzling that everyone could not open their eyes. Yi Yun's hand that turned into light suddenly thrust into the void and disappeared. At the same time, the shining white light disappeared. Yi Yun's face was dull, as if his arm was looking for something in the void. Luo Li and Jun Maxiao's eyes were as wide as bells. And their hearts were filled with huge waves as they looked at this incredible scene. Could it be said that the ancestor was going to use this supreme magical power to seize senior sister Su Wanyi from the Lydian dynasty? Feeling the terror of the white light, the big black cat trembled all over. It murmured to itself, "Oh my God, what kind of power is this?" The big black horse glanced at it with disdain and said angrily, "Look at your little knowledge, you have no future at all." The big black cat suddenly rushed over, lay down at the feet of the big black horse, rubbed it gently twice, raised its head and asked enviously, "Uncle Ma, what kind of magical powers does this master have?" The big black horse raised his head and said with some pride, "Of course I will tear apart the space. When I reach the Lydian dynasty, I will go to your 10,000 Beasts divine sect to find the successor of his sect." What? The big black cat was horrified. It was unknown how many millions of miles away from the Lydian dynasty it was. From such a long distance, is it possible to catch a large living person with just one hand? Seeing the shocked expression on the big black cat's face, the big black horse raised its hoof, lightly nodded its cat's head twice, and whispered, "Others can't, but I can." The big black cat had a blank look on his face, blinked his eyes repeatedly and said, "Master, can you?" The big dark horse laughed twice but said nothing. Li Tian dynasty, amidst the tall and majestic mountains, there is rich spiritual energy, and all kinds of powerful spiritual beasts are flying everywhere. This is the divine sect of 10,000 Beasts, one of the 5 strongest forces in the Lydian dynasty. At this time in a valley, a beautiful girl in purple clothes was surrounded by a group of disciples of the divine beast sect, and they were pointing at her with a mocking smile on her face. "Is this the genius that the master brought back? Isn't your cultivation level too low? I just broke through to the mysterious core realm, and I can't even compare to an outer disciple in the divine sect of 10,000 Beasts." Hearing various mocking voices in her ears, Su Wanyi lowered her head with a sad expression. Although she was lucky enough to survive, she was brought to the divine sect of 10,000 Beasts by that strong man, but in fact, she was ridiculed by many people here. Because her cultivation is too weak. In the past 3 months, she had practiced desperately. But she had only reached the 3rd level of Xiandan realm from the 9th level of Qi gathering realm. Although this speed was recognized by her current master, In fact, many disciples of the Divine Beast sect still often made fun of her, especially when some people knew that she came from a small place in the Guyu dynasty. They even used this matter as a gimmick to tease her. Su Wanyi only found out when she got here. It turned out that the Guyu dynasty, which was extremely vast in her heart, was just an extremely remote small place in the eyes of these people. The so-called 10 major forces of the Guyu dynasty are just ordinary sections. And their 10,000 beasts divine sect is already a super sect. Super sects are extremely powerful. It's like a giant. An outer disciple's cultivation level is in the Yuan high realm. Su Wanyi knew that people spoke softly and her cultivation was low, so she didn't say a word to those who laughed at her. She has been hiding with her master since she was a child, and she has endured so many hardships. What do these little ridicules in front of her mean? One day, if she could surpass these people, she would naturally use her strength to slap them in the face. Hey, Su Wanyi, can't you hear us? A male disciple stood in front of Su Wanyi and looked at her with a smile. Su Wanyi still lowered her head and remained silent. The male disciple stepped forward, then stretched out one of his hands to touch Su Wanyi's beautiful little face. What are you going to do? Su Wanyi was shocked and immediately took 2 steps back. The male disciple had a lewd look on his face, heyed twice, and took 2 steps closer with malicious intent. Others followed closely behind, making noises. Su Wanyi looked a little horrified. The male disciple opposite him was a direct disciple of the 9th peak master, and his cultivation had reached the divine bridge level. After taking a few steps back with a blushing face, Su Wanyi realized that she had nowhere to escape. Su Wanyi, why don't you let my master tell your master that you will be betrothed to me? That this male disciple had a lewd smile on his face, but the next moment, bang! His body suddenly exploded and turned into a ball of blood mist. A gentle voice suddenly echoed around. My disciple of Shenlong Sect, can you bear it? Who is this person? Dare to break into our divine beast sect without permission? That the expressions of the disciples watching around him all changed drastically, and they immediately took out their weapons, as if facing a formidable enemy. Shenlong Sect. Su Wanyi, who was panicked, suddenly raised her head when she heard these 3 words, with a confused look on her face. Is the strong man who spoke also a senior of her divine dragon sect? Girl, I will spare the lives of these remaining people, and wait for you to achieve great success in the future and cut off their heads yourself. In Su Wanyi's ears, that voice sounded again. Hearing these words, Su Wanyi's heart trembled and she couldn't help herself. A bright hand suddenly reached out of the void, landed on Su Wanyi, grabbed her and disappeared immediately. Next moment, Yi Yun withdrew his arm from the void and shook it slightly. Su Wanyi, dressed in purple, appeared in everyone's sight. Chapter 44 Su Wanyi wakes up from a dream. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Across the endless void, Su Wanyi's body was always surrounded by dazzling white light, and her sight could not break through that layer of white light. When the surrounding white light disappeared, her feet suddenly landed on the ground. Su Wanyi stood stupidly, staring with big eyes, unable to recover for a moment. Sister, seeing the elder sister who had been thinking about her so much, Luoli couldn't hold back any longer. Tears burst out. She opened her arms and rushed over to hug Su Wanyi. Lord Grimm couldn't control his emotions and ran over with tears in his eyes and stood beside the 2 of them. Senior sister is finally back. Lord Grimm laughed and cried, looking crazy. How touching, that the big black horse gently rubbed the big black cat's head inside. At this time, the big black cat's eyes were widened with bright black eyes. Seeing that familiar figure reappearing here, he couldn't help but feel extremely frightened. This godlike master, what level of terrifying cultivation is it? With his bare hands, he tore apart space and easily captured people hundreds of billions of miles away intact. In the big black cat's understanding, it felt that there was only one word that could match the master in front of him: God. This master is definitely an invincible god. Think of this, the big black cat couldn't help but tremble with excitement. It actually saw a legendary god in its lifetime. This was really shocking. Then again, how can there be gods in Sanyuan continent? Even the most powerful eternal sect does not have the existence of gods. Junior sister, junior brother, am I dreaming? Why do I see you here? Su Wanyi frowned. She was still confused at this moment. Luoli let go of her hand, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, and said in surprise, "Senior sister, it was our ancestor who captured you from the divine sect of 10,000 beasts." Ancestor? Amelia Su was stunned for a moment. The inheritance of the Shenlong Sect has withered, and the previous ancestors have been buried for who knows how many years. When did another ancestor appear? Furthermore, this place is countless millions of miles away from the Lytian dynasty. With such a long distance, what kind of cultivation level can we bring her here intact? Seeing that senior sister was still in a daze, Luoli quickly grabbed her hand, shook her hard twice, and said with a smile, "Senior sister, look over there. That is our ancestor, our Shenlong Sect. The 13th generation sect leader." Ah! Su Wanyi woke up from a dream and quickly followed Luo Li's gaze. A dozen meters away, stood a young man in white. This young man in white clothes has three-dimensional facial features, deep eyes, and flying black hair. He looks like an immortal walking out of a painting, exuding an unimaginable ethereal aura. Little junior sister, he is really our ancestor. Su Wanyi lowered her head and lowered her voice. She remembered that the 13th generation leader of the Shenlong Sect had been dead for 100,000 years, hadn't he? My ancestor is not dead, he is alive again. Luo Li was so excited that she didn't know the order of her words. She also didn't know whether her ancestor died first and then lived again, or he never died at all. Jun Maxiao saw that the two senior sisters were speaking confusedly and incoherently, so he quickly said, "Senior sister, this is the real ancestor, please hurry up and pay respects." After hearing Lord Grimm's words, Su Wanyi came back to her senses. She quickly withdrew her hand from Luo Li's, walked forward quickly, knelt at Yi Yun's feet and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. "Su Wanyi, pay homage to our ancestors. Get up." Yi Yun smiled softly, and a ray of mana floated out, lifting Su Wanyi up. "From today on, you 3 senior sisters and brothers will never have to be separated again." Yi Yun said with a smile. Luo Li, Jun Maxiao, and Su Wanyi were surprised and happy after hearing what their ancestor said. Their emotions were extremely complicated. The 3 of them actually hugged each other, crying and laughing. These past 10 years, they followed the master around, wandering around, avoiding the pursuit of various enemies, and living an inhuman and miserable life. Now, the ancestors of the sect were not only resurrected, but also gave them the most powerful support. Yi Yun still had his hands behind his back, looking at the 3 people hugging each other and crying, and felt quite touched. After they had finished crying, the 3 brothers and sisters regained their composure and wiped the tears from their faces. Only then did Su Wanyi look at her junior brother and junior sister seriously. She was surprised to find that Luo Li had reached the 10th level of the God-shaping realm, and Lord Grimm's cultivation has reached the peak of the 10th level of the God-shaping realm, and is only 1 step away from the Divine Bridge realm. "Why, how did your cultivation level break through so quickly?" Amelia Su asked with a shocked look on her face. "Because we have ancestors." Luo Li pursed her lips and smiled proudly. Amelia Su blinked. She couldn't even think of what kind of treasure it was that allowed Luo Li and Lord Grimm to break through so quickly. "Su Wanyi, your qualifications are not inferior to the 2 of them, and you have a bright future." Yi Yun looked at Su Wanyi, who looked confused and smiled softly. "Ancestor, can you also think of a way to make me the same as my junior brother and junior sister?" Su Wanyi said tremblingly, her beautiful little face flushed with excitement. Yi Yun smiled and nodded. He took out a small bottle and handed it over slowly. Luo Li hurriedly came over and said in Su Wanyi's ear, "Senior sister, our ancestors have ancestral dragon essence and blood. If you take 1 drop, you can quickly break through." "Ancestral dragon essence and blood? How is this possible?" Su Wanyi was shocked, her eyes widened, and she said, "Ancestor, wasn't the dragon essence and blood of our sect destroyed in the hands of the 250th generation sect master?" Yi Yun smiled. The clever Luo Li quickly explained, "Senior sister, what the sect destroyed was the essence and blood of the divine dragon, and what the ancestor has in his hands is the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon." "You heard clearly, it is the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon." "Oh." Su Wanyi nodded stupidly like she was petrified. Ancestral dragon essence and blood. These 4 words shocked her to the point that her whole brain went numb. As a disciple of the Shenlong Sect, how could he not have heard of the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon? But doesn't the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon remain in ancient legends? Seeing senior sister's current expression, Luo Li could think of herself in the past. She came over again and said, "Sister, do you know? There are hundreds of thousands of drops in that small bottle. Oh my God! There are so many ancestral dragon blood essences." Amelia Su was so excited that she almost fainted. "Sister, please cheer up. Don't be like my junior brother and faint when you hear it." Luo Li smiled, took Su Wanyi's arm, and shook her body. Lord Grim next to him couldn't help but turn red when he heard this. He fell into coma twice at that time. Thinking about it now, it's really embarrassing. The big black cat lying under the horse's hoofs heard the word Zulong essence and blood, and its eyes shone brightly. The legendary ancestral dragon essence and blood, it has never appeared on Sangnan Road. The big black cat licked his lips, wishing he could taste the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon. Boom! A black horse's hoof stepped on the head of the big black cat, trampling its face to the ground. "You little kitten, don't have any evil intentions, be careful, Uncle Ma, I will kill you directly," the big dark horse said angrily. Chapter 45 The Ancestors Gave Gifts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Uncle Ma, even if you beat me to death, I don't dare to take advantage of Zulong's essence and blood. I'm just a kitten, how much do I weigh? Don't you know how much I weigh? I haven't touched it since the beginning. Please give me some advice from Uncle Ma." The big black cat raised its head with difficulty from the soil, spit out the sand in its mouth, held its head with its two paws, and begged bitterly. "That's pretty much it. You little kitten has a great attitude and is in the right position." The big black horse grinned, smoothed the hair on the big black cat's head with its hooves, and then smiled. "I have to say, this little black cat has quite an appetite for it, one mouthful and one for Uncle Ma," shouting the big black horse with great joy. Yi Yun glanced at the big black horse indifferently, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, revealing an imperceptible smile. This big dark horse is conscientious and hardworking, usually silent, but now he has met a like-minded partner. The big black horse versus the big black cat is a bit interesting. Yi Yun gently turned the vial in his hand, and a drop of ancestral dragon essence and blood exuding a strong breath of life floated in the air, slowly flying towards Su Wanyi. Su Wanyi's breathing was rapid, and her little face was blood-red with excitement. Little junior sister, what should I do?" Seeing the ancestral dragon essence and blood flying straight towards her, Su Wanyi was so nervous that she didn't know what to do. "Sister, what are you still hesitating about? Quickly swallow this drop of ancestral dragon essence and blood, and then use our Shenlong Sect's technique to quickly refine it." Luo Li reminded him with a smile. "Oh." Su Wanyi understood. She opened her small cherry mouth, sucked gently, and swallowed the drop of Zulong essence and blood. Then, her body underwent earth-shaking and astonishing changes. She quickly sat cross-legged on the ground, running the Shenlong Sect skills and refining the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon. The aura on her body was growing at an incredible speed. The 4th floor of the Xian Dan Mirror, the 5th level of Xian Dan Realm, the 6th floor of the Xian Dan Mirror, the 1st level of Yuan Hai Realm, the 2nd floor of Yuan Hai Realm, the 3rd level of Yuan Hai Realm, the 10th level of Yuan Hai Realm. "Sister, come on." Luo Lian looked forward to it. Seeing that the senior sister had reached the 10th level of Yuan Hai Realm, she secretly cheered her up. Back then, she had been promoted from the Qi Gathering Realm to the 10th level of the Yuan Hai Realm, but the senior sister is now in the Xiandan Realm, and there should be hope of breaking through to the God-shaping realm. Yi Yun looked at Su Wanyi's breakthrough with a calm expression, and the expression on his face remained unchanged. The big black cat under the horse's hooves stared at Su Wanyi's soaring cultivation, and said with a nonchalant expression, "Uncle Ma, is this ancestral dragon essence and blood so powerful? One drop can make people cultivate quickly." Soaring. The big black horse bared his teeth, glared at it angrily, and cursed, "You worthless kitten, you are too short-sighted. Please ask Uncle Ma to clarify your doubts." The big black cat raised its paws and smiled flatteringly. The big black horse snorted coldly. "Do you think anyone can take the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon?" Then only descendants of the dragon clan with the blood of the dragon can do it. Moreover, this kind of improvement can only be achieved by changing the blood in the body for the first time. It will only happen when the time comes, and if you take it later, there won't be such a terrifying improvement speed. It was rare to hear Mr. Ma say so many words of explanation. The big black cat showed a grateful look on his face, and quickly raised his paws again, bowing continuously. Thank you, Uncle Ma, for taking the trouble to clarify the kitten's doubts. Hey hey. The big black horse laughed twice, and there was a sense of pride in the black gem-like horse's eyes. This black cat's cultivation level is not high, it is only in the nirvana state. In Uncle Ma's eyes, it is no different from an ordinary monster. Bang sound, Su Wanyi's body was shaken, and her cultivation level broke through from the 10th level of the Yuan High realm to the 1st level of the God-shaping realm in one fell swoop. At this time, the astonishing breath slowly fell. Senior sister finally made a breakthrough. Lord Grimm, who had been nervous beside him, had an expression of surprise on his face. Luo Li also laughed happily. After a while, Su Wanyi slowly opened her eyes, walked to Yi Yun, sank her knees, and knelt on the ground. Thank you, ancestor, for making it possible. Get up, there's no need to be so polite. Yi Yun smiled and waved his hand, and a burst of magic power swept out, lifting Su Wanyi up. What color robe do you like? Yi Yun asked. Su Wanyi was stunned when she heard her ancestor's inquiry. Luo Li covered her mouth and laughed softly. The ancestor is going to give a gift to the senior sister. A robe and a divine sword are already standard equipment for their Shenlong Sect disciples. Ancestor Qi, I like purple. Su Wanyi blushed and said in a low voice. Yi Yun nodded, groped around in his wrists, and found that there was no purple robe. He couldn't help but have a slightly disappointed expression on his face. There are too few women's cassocks, there is really no purple robe in his warehouse, which makes Yi Yun, the ancestor, a little embarrassed. Yi Yun thought for a while, then grabbed a golden robe and took it out. There is no purple robe, but now there is a golden robe. You can make do with it first. Yi Yun smiled softly and threw the robe that exuded a faint golden light to Su Wanyi. Su Wanyi couldn't help but be extremely shocked when she looked at this golden robe that was shining with golden light and extraordinary. When she held it in her hand and felt its breath, she raised her head in shock and said, Ancestor, is this a royal robe? Yi Yun nodded. Su Wanyi's eyes widened, her breathing became rapid, and her heartbeat accelerated. Her whole body was once again petrified like a stone sculpture. It turned out to be an imperial robe. Ancestor, this move is too generous. Su Wanyi spent 3 months in the 10,000 Beasts divine sect of the Litian dynasty, and she could be considered to have seen some of the world. Even the sect's talented disciples don't have emperor-level magic weapons. Such robes only appear on the peak masters and sect leaders of the 9 peaks. Unexpected, the ancestor gave her an imperial robe as soon as he took action, which shocked Su Wanyi's heart. Yi Yun fumbled around on his wrist again and took out a sword. This is a red sword. And the scabbard is also red. As soon as it appeared, it exuded a terrifying aura. This sword is for you. Yi Yun raised his hand gently, and the terrifying red sword floated towards Su Wanyi. This. Su Wanyi was shocked and took the sword with trembling hands. She simply couldn't imagine what the quality of this sword was. She has never seen such a powerful sword even on the sect leader. Oh my God, Uncle Ma, what kind of sword did the master take out this time? Why can't I recognize it? The big black cat kept scratching its furry head with its claws and said with a shocked look on its face. You little kitten who has never seen the world, I really want to smash your head to pieces and see what kind of garbage is inside. The big black horse cracked a big white tooth, stepped on it hard with the horse's hoof, and said proudly, Little kitten, listen to me, this is a god level. What? Uncle Ma. This is actually a god level sword. The big black cat was stunned, and its body was as stiff as a stone. After all, it came from the Litian dynasty, and it has lived a long time, but it has never seen a god-level treasure. Unexpectedly, today was an eye-opener. First, I saw the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon, then I saw the royal robe that only the master could wear. Next, it saw a god-level sword that it would never forget. Horrible. He is indeed a godlike existence. The big black cat looked at Yi Yun's back, with a look of fanatical admiration emerging from its deep black eyes. Chapter 46 Nine-Tailed Civet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The conversation between the big black horse and the big black cat also spread around. Su Wanyi naturally heard it too, her hand trembled and she almost threw the sword away. This is actually a divine sword. Terrible. Su Wanyi raised her head while trembling all over, looked at Yi Yun with tears in her eyes, and said with a tearful voice, "Old ancestor, how can I, a young disciple, use such a good sword?" Seeing Su Wanyi's expression, Yi Yun smiled slightly and looked at Luo Li. Luo Li was smart, and quickly came over, gently took Su Wanyi's arm, and whispered, "Senior sister, just accept it. What I got is also a god-level sword." With that said, Luo Li raised the supreme golden dragon sword in his hand and shook it proudly, feeling the breath of this sword. Su Wanyi said with a wry smile, "This sword of yours doesn't look like a god-level sword." Luo Li chuckled, "Sister, I asked my ancestor to seal it." "I see." Su Wanyi suddenly realized. She gently pulled out the 7-star Longyuan sword, and saw that the sword was blood red, with a vague shadow of a divine dragon. There are 7 stars on the sword body, emitting bright and dazzling light. Luo Li took a look and sighed, "Sister, your dragon is not as clear as mine, but your sword has stars on it, but mine doesn't." Su Wanyi smiled and immediately put the sword back into the scabbard. The aura emanating from this sword is too terrifying. Su Wanyi estimated that if her ancestors weren't standing by to suppress the sword, she might not even be able to get close. "Ancestor, please seal this sword as well as the robe on me." Su Wanyi held the sword and golden robe in both hands, knelt on the ground, and said with a pleading look on her face. "Good." Yi Yun sighed lightly and nodded. These 3 children all came from poor families and were used to living a hard life. Nowadays, even if you have the best divine sword, you don't dare to show it casually. However, this is fine. These 3 children are extremely tough-minded and have promising talents in the future. Think of this. Yi Yun gently used his hand, and the grade of the 7-star Longyuan sword was quickly reduced from the god level to the heaven level. That golden robe also dropped to the heaven level. At the same time, the robes on Luo Li and Junemo Shao and the swords in their hands also dropped to the same level. Luo Li shrugged and smiled. She had long been used to it. Lord Grim raised the sword in his hand and said with a grimace, "Ancestor, why are the 2 senior sisters given god-level swords, but the swords given to me are emperor-level swords?" Yi Yun glanced at him lightly. "You are a man, and you will bear more pressure in the future." After hearing these words, Lord Grim's face suddenly turned red. He was only 14 years old, and he had never regarded himself as a man. He only felt that he was still young. However, he could hear his ancestor's words, which indicated that he had placed high hopes on himself. He must not let his ancestor down. Sensing the mood swings of his junior brother, Luo Li also came over and comforted him in a low voice. "Junior brother, our ancestor naturally has his arrangements for everything. Don't have any emotions. Don't worry, second senior sister. As I said just now, my only thought now is how to become stronger." Junemo said with a smile, his face returning to its former self-confidence. Luo Li nodded, looking at these 3 senior sisters and brothers. The big black cat took a few breaths of air. It didn't expect that the sword in the hands of the little girl named Luo Li was actually a sealed divine sword, and that young man had an emperor-level divine sword in his hand. The background of this Shenlong Sect is too terrifying. Although there were only 3 disciples, a very small number, the weapons in their hands were either god-level or emperor-level. Even the eternal-level sects can't do it. Think of this. The big black cat quickly rubbed its furry body against the thick leg of the big black horse next to it. The big black horse lowered his head and glared at it angrily. "Kitten, what else have you come up with? Uncle Ma, do you need a book boy who can serve you tea and water while you are busy?" The big black cat said with a shy face. "Fuck your cat. If I need a book boy, I'll be a cart puller." The big black horse raised its hoofs and then fell heavily. Puff. The big black cat took another mouthful of mud. Undeterred at all, it spit out the mud in its mouth, knelt on the ground again, and kept clasping its 2 paws. "Uncle Ma, if you don't need a book boy, how about I tickle you every day?" When the big black cat said this, he glanced at the big black horse's strong buttocks, and said with a flattering smile, "Although your cultivation is astonishing, there are always places that you can't reach, right?" That the big black horse's eyes widened. It has never seen such a shameless cat demon. Today, this big black cat has refreshed Uncle Ma's outlook on things. What nonsense are you talking about, little kitten? When did you, Uncle Ma, scratch an itch, call? The big black horse landed another black hoof. This time it was even harder, and the whole big black cat was directly pressed into the pit. Seeing the big black horse and the big black cat fighting happily next to them, Yiyun couldn't help but laugh. These two monsters are really a pair of treasures. Although this big black cat has a pitifully low level of cultivation, it is still very funny. Compared to the powerful pets in his warehouse, they are much more interesting. The other side, Jun Maxiao, Luo Li and Su Wanyi couldn't help laughing when they heard the conversation between the big black horse and the big black cat. Turning over from the pit, the big black cat jumped out again, spit out the mud, and then rubbed the big black horse's thick legs. Uncle Ma, I just want to stay with you and serve you. For the sake of my shamelessness, can you tell me and give me a chance? The big black cat said bitterly. The big black horse glanced away coldly and said angrily, do you think anyone has this qualification? I am just pulling the cart for the master. Your little kitten is too low cultivation to be able to get into the eyes of the master, so why don't you just stay cool? Where to stay? Upon hearing this, the big black cat immediately became anxious. It quickly said, Uncle Ma, although my cultivation level is low, I can do some things that are inconvenient for you, such as tickling you, or telling you a joke. I bother. After hearing this big black cat's nonsense, when the big black horse got angry, he kicked the big black cat away with a hoof. Yiyun stretched out his hand to stop the big black cat in midair, and then it fell to the ground with a chirp. He looked at the big black cat and asked calmly, you little kitten, you are so thoughtful, do you just want to change the family? Seeing this godlike master suddenly speaking, the little black cat immediately lay on the ground and cried bitterly. Master, I do want to follow you. This is my sincere words. Yiyun's eyes twitched twice. It seemed that at this moment, the big black cat's true identity was revealed. He smiled softly and asked, did your original master treat you badly? The big black cat nodded quickly and said, Master, the original owner was not kind to me, but he made it impossible for me to continue to break through. At this point, the big black cat shook its butt violently and raised its three tails. It said bitterly, Master, look, after all these years, I have only grown 3 tails. The big black horse next to him widened his eyes and suddenly realized, oh, it turns out you are the bloodline of the 9-tailed civet. Yes, Uncle Ma, it is because I have the rare 9-tailed civet bloodline that I want to join the master and live with him, the big black cat said with a sad face. Chapter 47 Try taking 2 steps. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yiyun smiled faintly, having already seen the big black cat's true identity. He didn't mind. He didn't like this little 9-tailed civet at all. The 9-tailed civet may be regarded as a rare bloodline monster in Sanyuan continent, but in Yiyun's warehouse, it is not even ranked among the top names. Kitten, don't think that just because you have the blood of a 9-tailed civet, you are awesome. The big black horse raised its black hoof and slammed it down. He snorted coldly and said, in your eyes, Uncle Ma, you are nothing. The big black cat's weak heart was mercilessly attacked by the big black horse, but it was still tenacious. It knelt down on its knees and crawled over again. Uncle Ma, the bloodline of the 9-tailed civet is not as bad as you said. After all, it is also one of the top 10 sacred beasts in Sanyuan continent, the big black cat said with a sad face. The big black horse lifted its hoof and placed it on the big black cat's head. Then he gently smoothed the cat's hair and said with a sad look on his face, don't be sad. You know, like you, Uncle Ma, such monsters are not even worthy of being ranked among the master. As soon as the big black horse finished speaking, not only the big black cat was stunned, but also Luo Li and the other 3 people who had been watching the show nearby were stunned. Such a powerful dark horse can't even be ranked. Then the other big demons raised by our ancestors, aren't they so powerful that they can break through the sky? The 3 people couldn't help but look at each other. Uncle Ma, please stop joking with me. Although I am very powerful, there can't be any monster stronger than you, right? The big black cat shook his head, not believing what Uncle Ma said at all. The big black horse grinned, showing its big white teeth, looked at Yi Yun, and said with a smile, "Master, you don't believe this little kitten, why don't you let it go in and have a look?" Yi Yun smiled calmly, with a funny look deep in his eyes. Although this big black cat is not very powerful, it has a very humorous personality. If you have it along the way, you will not be afraid of being lonely. Although there are many powerful monsters in Yi Yun's warehouse, they lack such humorous ones. Thinking of this, Yi Yun nodded. The big dark horse couldn't help but grin when he got the approval. "Please also ask the master to take us back to the warehouse," the big black horse said respectfully. As soon as Yi Yun raised his hand, the big black horse and the big black cat were caught by him and taken to the warehouse. Luo Li looked a little shocked as she looked at the two monster beasts that had disappeared. She glanced at Yi Yun with some fear, and said tremblingly, "Ancestor, do you raise a lot of monsters?" Yi Yun nodded. "So be it." Luo Li was so frightened that she quickly covered her mouth and did not dare to speak. A big black horse raised by his ancestor is so powerful. Doesn't that mean there are many such powerful monsters in his warehouse? Lord Grimm opened his eyes wide and looked at his ancestor in shock, thinking to himself, "My ancestor is too strong. He is so powerful personally and he has raised such a large group of monsters. How can this make him so powerful? Don't let people live anymore." Yi Yun remained calm and stood quietly, while using a ray of consciousness to observe what was going on in the warehouse. The big black horse and the big black cat only felt their eyes blurred. Suddenly, time and space shifted and they appeared in a special space. It was pitch black all around and I couldn't see anything clearly. The big black cat looked around, pouted and said, "Uncle Ma, this place is empty and there are no monsters." The big black horse bared his teeth and smiled. "Try taking 2 steps." The big black cat didn't believe in evil and walked forward with cat steps. In its heart, the big black cat believes that there are not many monsters in the world that can surpass it, and Uncle Ma happens to be one of them. Therefore, it firmly believes that there will never be so many powerful monsters in this world. It means powerful, focusing on blood. If this 9-tailed civet can one day grow 9 tails, it will be incredibly powerful. Go straight after the legendary gods. As soon as the big black cat took 2 steps, the big black horse suddenly hugged its 2 hooves to its chest, bowed respectfully, and said with a smile, "Brothers and sisters, the pony is back to see you." Suddenly I heard Uncle Ma, who was extremely sacred in my heart, suddenly shout such a respectful address, and when Uncle Ma made that flattering gesture again, the big black cat next to him was already stunned. Before it could react, in the endless darkness, pairs of huge blood-colored eyes suddenly opened. A terrifying figure with a monstrous aura slowly bloomed with various lights in the darkness. "Pony! You are finally willing to come back. I thought I would never see you again." In the darkness in the distance, a huge mountain-like figure burst out with blazing flames, standing on the top of the universe like a demon god. The fire was bursting with immeasurable light, and even if the big black cat poured all its mana into its eyes, it could not clearly see the appearance of the demon god. It could only vaguely see a blurry projection, which seemed to be a huge humanoid creature. "Oh my god, what kind of monster breath is this? Why is it so scary?" The big black cat screamed and huddled up in an instant, trembling with fear. The humanoid figure in the distance was 100 times more terrifying than Uncle Ma. "Brother Monkey, we haven't seen each other for a while." The big black horse bared his teeth and smiled, with a flattering look on his face. "Pony, are you back? Long time no see." At this moment, one after another extremely huge and terrifying figures opened their mouths to say hello to the big black horse. The big black cat curled up into a ball, looking at the terrifying figures with strange shapes, all of which could not be seen clearly in the light. It was so frightened that it peed directly. "Sky! How come there are so many powerful creatures? Every one of them seems to be stronger than the big dark horse. This is too terrible. Where did this little wild cat come from? It's so cowardly, it actually made it pee." In the black void, a golden light flashed across, and a huge golden figure suddenly appeared, suspended in mid-air. Endless golden light bloomed all over it, and its aura was terrifying, making it look like a god. "Brother Dajin, it's been a long time. This is a kitten that the master met on the way. He was very talkative and claimed to be a 9-tailed civet cat. one of the top 10 mythical beasts in Sanyuan continent. The master asked me to bring it here. Eye-opening. The big black horse looked respectfully at the golden figure in the sky and said. It turns out that the master let it in, that the golden figure smiled, looking carefully at the big black cat below. How about? I take it to broaden its horizons first. There are many older brothers and sisters out there who are terribly lonely, so I just want to send this little black cat over to have a look. The big black horse grinned. Brother Dejin, I'm sorry to trouble you, but you must keep it alive. I don't seem to want to scare it to death. Ha ha ha, don't worry, even if it is scared to death, there is still a way to revive it. A burst of dazzling golden light passed over the huddled big black cat and suddenly disappeared. On the ground, there was only a pool of wet cat urine. Chapter 48 Uncle Ma, I finally see you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it, the little black cat actually left a puddle of urine here. When it comes back, I have to let it lick it clean. Looking at the urine stain on the ground, the big black horse took 2 steps to the side in disgust, away from the puddle of cat urine, but cat urine is cat urine, and the cat odor is very strong. The big black horse still couldn't bear it, so he had to cast a spell, a light shield, to cover the puddle of cat urine. Pony, how is the world outside? Have you ever met a mare you like and could be your wife? Suddenly, a terrifying figure came to the big black horse and landed on it. The big black horse's body suddenly sank and he almost fell to the ground. Sister Feng, please be gentle. My skinny little body cannot withstand such pressure from you. The big black horse said with a sad face. Oops, I'm sorry, I forgot about it. I thought you, Xiaoma, were enjoying the spicy food outside with the master, and your body had grown stronger. That terrifying figure actually made a charming woman's voice. She used her magical power and regained some strength. The big dark horse felt better now. It shook its head and said with a bitter smile, Sister Feng, where is the suitable mare out there? I am a bachelor ready to fight for the rest of my life. The terrifying figure chuckled. Is it fun outside? She then asked. The big black horse shook his head, and then nodded quickly. What do you mean? You are shaking your head and nodding. Is it fun or not? The terrifying figure was unhappy. Sister Feng, the strength of the people outside is too low, there is no way to play with them. What I said is interesting is because there are 3 disciples in the master's sect, and those 3 little guys are quite fun. Oh, so that's it. The terrifying figure thought for a while, then faced the big black horse and said with an encouraging look, why don't you go back and ask the master if his 3 juniors need divine pets? If so, we are willing to go out and pawn for them. God's pet. Okay, Sister Feng. The big black horse lowered his head in embarrassment. If only these horrible guys were allowed to go out. So, is this world going to be in chaos? The master's original idea was to train a few of his disciples from the Shenlong Sect. If you have a pet, how can you practice it? But the big black horse did not dare to say these words. He was afraid that Sister Feng would be unhappy and poke a few bloody holes in his body. A golden light suddenly came, bang. The terrifying golden figure threw the big black cat to the ground. It said angrily, this little guy is really disappointing. He fainted from fear as soon as he got there. Dejingzi, you must have no good intentions and take him to the most terrifying place, right? Sister Feng chuckled. Ha ha ha. I wanted it to see the world. Unexpectedly, as soon as I got close to it, it was so frightened that it fainted. I was afraid that it was really frightened to death, so I brought it back quickly to avoid being punished by the master. After saying that, the terrifying golden figure disappeared in a flash. Pony, this kitten is too timid. Wake it up soon and comfort it. Seeing that the situation was not good, Sister Feng ran away immediately. In the darkness, the terrifying figures closed their eyes again and fell into a deep sleep. The entire warehouse fell into darkness and silence returned. The big black horse shook his head, as if he was not used to this kind of silence. It remembers that they used to fight a lot. Why do you like to sleep so much lately? Are you tired from fighting for so many years? After thinking for a while, the big black horse walked up to the big black cat. He stepped on the big black cat's head with his hoof and injected a burst of mana. The big black cat finally woke up. You, Uncle Ma, I finally see you. I thought I would never see you again in this life. Seeing the handsome horse's face in the dark, the big black cat suddenly felt extremely friendly. He jumped up suddenly, hugged the big black horse's thick legs, and cried out loudly. It just saw the most terrifying monster in its life. It was so frightened that it passed out immediately. The monster only opened half of its eyes and glanced at it. The big black cat felt like he had died in hell 800 times. It's so scary. Stop crying, little kitten. Do you now know the horror of this place? The big dark horse said angrily. I understand, Uncle Ma. The big black cat said with a sad face. So, you should keep a low profile as a cat in the future. Don't think that just because you are a nine-tailed civet cat, you are nothing. In the eyes of your Uncle Ma, you are nothing. The big black horse taught the Tao earnestly and looked like an elder. The big black cat wiped his tears and nodded heavily. I won't dare to do it anymore. I will keep a low profile and be a cat from now on. That's pretty much it. The big black horse pointed in a direction with his hoof and said angrily, looking at how useless you are, you even peed some cat urine in the master's warehouse. Quickly lick it for me. Otherwise, Mr. Ma will kill you now. Throw it here and let them eat you. After hearing the threatening words of the big black horse, the black hair all over the big black cat's body exploded. It flew towards the puddle of cat urine, opened its mouth and sucked in fiercely, and all the cat urine on the ground was sucked into its stomach. Oh Ma, stay away from me from now on, you are so dirty. Seeing the big black cat swallowing the urine, the big black horse raised its head with a look of disgust on its face. He is a big dark horse who likes to be clean. Mr. Ma, don't worry. I used magic to break them down. There is no smell. The big black cat raised its front paws and smiled. You're smart. The big black horse said angrily, turned around and walked out. After witnessing the whole incident, Yiyun couldn't help but laugh secretly in his heart. This time, the big black cat was frightened. Presumably, this guy will never dare to be so high profile again in his life. With a flick of his wrist, Yiyun grabbed the big black horse and the big black cat out of the air. Seeing the light of day again, the big black cat took a few breaths of fresh air greedily, with a look on his face of surviving the disaster. Boom. The big black horse immediately smashed its hoof on the head. The big black cat immediately understood that now was not the time to be intoxicated. It hurriedly trotted all the way to Yiyun's feet and kowtowed repeatedly. Master, the kitten realizes its mistake, please give it a chance. There was a faint smile on Yiyun's face. He put his hands behind his back and said softly, it's okay if you want to follow us, but the current leader of the Shenlong Sect is Luo Li. You should ask her opinion. Seeing that the master had no objection, the big black cat felt happy and felt that this matter was interesting. It hurriedly flew to Luo Li's feet, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed, Sect Master Luo, please take me in. In the future, the sect will need a divine beast to look after the house and the courtyard. I will definitely be able to do the job. Seeing the big black cat kowtow to herself suddenly, Luo Li was startled. However, seeing the cat kowtow, she found it funny. She didn't dislike the big black cat, however, she felt it was a bit too hasty to accept the big black cat. Su Wanyi looked at the big black cat with a look of gratitude in her eyes. Junior sister, this senior cat saved me at that time and was kind to me. Why don't you just accept it? Amelia Su said softly. Chapter 49 Divine King Realm. Soon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You actually saved senior sister. Luo Li was slightly surprised. After being stunned for a few seconds, she nodded with a smile and said, okay, senior sister, I will accept it. Thank you, master. Su Wanyi clasped her hands in fists. A knowing smile appeared on her beautiful jade face, and she made an extremely formal gesture to pay homage to the sect leader. Haha. Senior sister, we don't have to do this. As the sect leader, I was also appointed by the master before his death. In terms of qualifications, I am not as good as you, Luo Li said, hurriedly waving her hands. Her little face turned red. Su Wanyi looked serious and said, little junior sister, master, he must have a deep meaning in passing on the sect master to you. You must not underestimate yourself. Yes. Second senior sister. Lord Grimm also nodded and agreed. Luoli smiled bitterly. Perhaps within the entire sect, her ability to escape is the strongest, that's why the master took a fancy to this. Oh yeah. Seeing that Luoli agreed, the big black cat couldn't help but excitedly flipped several somersaults in the air. Thank you, master. That the big black cat fell down and kowtowed 3 times, then, like a gust of wind, it rushed to the feet of the big black horse and rubbed hard against the big black horse's thick legs. Uncle Ma, you see, I have now become the sacred beast of the Shenlong Sect that looks after the home and the courtyard. You, the old man, now have a companion, that the big black cat said with a flattering smile. The big black horse suddenly raised its hoof and gave it a slap, and said viciously, why are you so proud of yourself? Just do your job honestly. The big black cat was hit into the soil again by this hoof, and took a mouthful of soil. However, it was excited and not discouraged at all. It crawled out and spit out the mud in its mouth, and started smiling playfully again. Seeing this, Yi Yun smiled lightly and said, Little Ma, I'll leave it to you to regulate it. The big black horse grinned, showing his white teeth, and said, Thank you, sir. This kitten really lacks discipline. It should be taken care of. When the big black cat saw that the master had spoken, he was suddenly too frightened to speak. If the master gets angry and throws it into a dark warehouse, it will be miserable. Yi Yun looked around and said softly, Okay, it's time for us to leave here. Ancestor, where should we go next? Luoli asked curiously. There is nothing left to miss about the Guyu dynasty. Next, we will go to the Kamikaze dynasty. In that place, you should practice hard and strive to kill the Shenlong Sect as soon as possible and find out the mastermind behind the persecution of the Shenlong Sect. Yi Yun smiled lightly. Okay, ancestor. Luoli said with a serious face. Yi Yun looked at Luoli and Jun Ma Xiao and said, You two have experienced a big battle in the Sword God Sect. Now you are scarred. Go back to the car and recuperate. After saying that, he waved his sleeves and the two of them disappeared immediately. Su Wanyi. She looked at each other, wondering where her junior brother and junior sister had gone. Su Wanyi, come with me. Yi Yun said softly. A soft light enveloped Su Wanyi, and she and Yi Yun disappeared at the same time and entered the carriage. The big black cat jumped onto the carriage very smartly, curled up and lay there. The big black horse took the reins of the carriage and drove out of the valley. Kitten, you, Mr. Ma, I don't know the way of the Kamikaze dynasty, you should know, right? After the big black horse walked out of the White Mist Valley, he looked around, then turned to look at the big black cat and asked. Uncle Ma, you have asked the right person. I am a know-it-all in Sanyuan continent. The big black cat chuckled, raised its black paw, pointed in the southeast direction, and said, Uncle Ma, please go that way. The big dark horse smiled and headed in the direction of the Kamikaze dynasty. In the carriage, Yi Yun began to teach Su Wanyi the 3 secrets of the Shenlong Sect. More than half a month later, this black carriage slowly drove into the territory of the Kamikaze dynasty. Yi Yun had given instructions before, so the big black horse was not in too much of a hurry and just walked on the ground with normal leg strength. Sir, the Kamikaze dynasty has arrived. Ahead is the largest border city of the Kamikaze dynasty, Silver Moon City. The big black cat turned his head and whispered in the direction of the car. Good. Yi Yun whispered a word. At this time, he was the only one sitting in the entire carriage. Su Wanyi was also put into a separate space to practice. During this time, Yi Yun only gave her regular advice every day. Yi Yun's fingers tapped lightly, as if he was feeling something, and a faint smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. At this time, in a certain space on the black carriage. Suddenly there was an astonishing breath. Luo Li's body trembled, as if some chain inside her body had been opened. In an instant, her aura became extremely powerful. At this moment, Luo Li successfully broke through to the Divine Bridge realm. Ancestor, I have made a breakthrough. After the breakthrough, Luo Li waved her fist and was ecstatic. Very good. After the breakthrough, take a drop of the ancestral dragon essence and blood and continue to warm it up for a while. A gentle voice resounded in Luo Li's space, a faint light flickered, and a drop of ancestral dragon essence and blood appeared out of thin air in front of Luo Li. "Thank you, ancestor." Luo Li said respectfully, opened her mouth to swallow the ancestral dragon essence and blood, sat cross-legged, and began to refine it. Yi Yun looked in another direction. Lord Grimm also broke through to the Divine Bridge realm 7 days ago. Now he is also refining the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon. Now that these two children have broken through to the Xinqiao realm, Yi Yun is still extremely relieved. Now, the person with the worst practice is Su Wanyi. Yi Yun planned to give her the same special training, so, he called out Su Wanyi who was practicing, with a gentle touch of her hand. Su Wanyi's cultivation level immediately dropped from the first level of the plastic god realm to the first level of the Yuan Hai realm, a huge drop. Ancestor. Seeing the sudden drop in realm, Su Wanyi was startled. She looked at her ancestor with confusion. Yi Yun said calmly, "That my Shenlong Sect disciples must all be invincible at the same level and be good at fighting across levels, therefore, I forcefully suppress your realm to a higher level, so that you can achieve breakthroughs under pressure." Oh. Amelia Su blinked. Yi Yun smiled and said, "Luo Li, like you, was suppressed to the first level of the Yuan Hai realm in the past. He gradually rose to the 10th level of the Yuan Hai realm before releasing the seal and breaking through to the Xinqiao realm. That's it. Thank you ancestor for your hard work." Su Wanyi immediately understood the painstaking efforts of her ancestors, felt ashamed, and quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed. As soon as Yi Yun stretched out his hand, a burst of magic power swept out and lifted Su Wanyi up. He smiled and said, "Now Luo Li can defeat dozens of monks of the same level without any problem." "Little junior sister, is she already that powerful?" Amelia Su said in surprise. Deep in his eyes, there was also a look of extreme envy. Yi Yun looked at Silver Moon City indifferently, seeming to see something, and said with profound meaning, "Compared to the Guyu dynasty, the overall strength of the Kamikaze dynasty is more than 10 times stronger. Your experience, from Silver Moon City begins." "Okay, ancestor." Amelia Su said obediently. Yi Yun closed his eyes again and rested his mind. His cultivation level has made another breakthrough, and he is now at the 9th level of the True God realm. Once you reach the 10th level of the True God realm, the improvement in cultivation brought by the ancestral dragon's essence and blood will almost be exhausted. At this time, Yi Yun can take the various elixirs and natural treasures obtained by signing in Divine Sovereign Realm. Yi Yun believes that it won't be long before he can break through to this realm. Chapter 50 Sanyuan Martial Arts Association. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Silvermoon City. At this moment, inside the newly decorated City Lord's palace, there were lanterns and festoons everywhere, ribbons flying, and joy. People were coming and going, traffic was busy, and it was very lively. Most of the people who came to the City Lord's palace gathered in the center of the main square. I saw a high platform for martial arts competitions built in the center of the square. There are viewing sheds of different sizes located around it. The place was packed with guests and friends, and it was overcrowded. In the largest viewing shed, sitting in the center were 3 powerful men of the God-shaping realm with powerful auras. In the middle, sat a tall, middle-aged man with a beard and a fierce appearance. Although this man looks fierce, he has a smile on his face. He is the City Lord of Silver Moon City, Xiongninghao. The reason why the City Lord's mansion is so lively today is because of the Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament that is about to be held. The Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament is held every 3 years. In previous years, Xiongninghao was in a calm mood. Only this time, he was the most excited. His son Xiong Chimo was appointed as an inner disciple by the Qitian Sword Sect. Therefore, in this Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament, his son is the real protagonist, although it has been decided by default. The process of the Sanyuan Martial Arts Association still needs to be gone through. On his left and right sides, sat the 2 patriarchs of the Ouyang family and the Dongfang family respectively. Ouyang Xiu of the Ouyang family, who is at the 6th level of the Yuan Hai realm, has also been admitted to the Hunyuan Sword Sect. Dongfang Jade from the Dongfang family is at the 5th level of the Yuan Hai realm and has been admitted to the Qingyun Sect. In the past few years, Silver Moon City has seen numerous talents emerge, and it is rare that 3 people have been appointed to the position. The 3 Yuan Martial Arts Association is divided into Tianyuan, Earthly Yuan, and human Yuan. His son Xiong Chimo occupied the position of Tian Yuan, Ouyang Xiu occupies the position of Earth Yuan, Oriental Jade occupies the position of human Yuan. In previous Sanyuan martial arts tournaments, there would always be a battle between dragons and tigers to determine the top 3 places, but this time, the 3 major sects have already decided on their quotas. As a result, the 3 elements of heaven, earth, and people have their own belongings. Everything is tacit, whether it is the Xiong family, the Ouyang family, or the Dongfang family, everyone knows it well and no one will reveal it. Today's Sanyuan Martial Arts Association is still lively, because other families in Silver Moon City, as well as other nearby forces, don't know the news yet. Just as the Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament was about to begin, a black carriage slowly drove into Silver Moon City. I haven't been to Silver Moon City for some years. It's still the same as before, with no changes. The big black cat lay lazily on the carriage and sighed. The big black horse turned his head and glared at it angrily. Uncle Ma, I'm too talkative. I'm just a cat now, and I shouldn't be so fond of picking it up. The big black cat was flustered, and quickly raised its paw and pointed it at his own cat's face. Before entering the city, the big black horse had already given him instructions. There are many people in this place, so try to talk as little as possible. As soon as the big black cat entered the city, he forgot these words. At this moment, Su Wanyi was also sitting in the carriage, watching the big black cat punishing himself. She couldn't help but smile softly. Senior cat, there is no need to punish yourself like this. The big black cat didn't dare to speak, shook his head desperately, and then sent out a spiritual message. Miss, please don't call me senior cat. From now on, just call me kitten. The big black cat said in a panic. Senior cat, you are older than me and have helped me save my life. Please don't mess with your etiquette. Su Wanyi laughed softly. The big black cat shook his head repeatedly, unwilling to live or die. Miss, if you call me senior, how should I face the leader? Otherwise, just call me Xiao. You don't have to worry, I'm such a thick-faced cat. Su Wanyi. Su Wanyi had no choice but to shake her head and smile bitterly. After the big black horse entered the city, he seemed to know the direction and came to a tall building. Su Wanyi looked up and saw the tall and majestic vermilion gate, with lights and colorful decorations everywhere. There were many people coming and going, making it very lively. A huge golden plaque stands on the gate, with the 3 characters City Lord's Mansion written on it. The Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament is being held here. Su Wanyi, go and join it. Just when Su Wanyi was confused, she suddenly remembered the voice of her ancestors. What is the Sanyuan Wuhui? Su Wanyi was filled with doubts, but her ancestors had a destiny, and she didn't dare to disobey it. Su Wanyi quickly got off the carriage and walked towards the gate of the city lord's mansion. Ian opened his eyes, looked at Su Wanyi's back, and said softly, Kitty cat, you come with me too. Well done, sir. The big black cat was immediately delighted and immediately turned into a black light from the carriage and landed on Su Wanyi's shoulder. It is now shrunk to the size of a palm, with 2 black jewel-like eyes rolling around, and it looks very cute sitting on Su Wanyi's shoulder. Thinking of the teachings of the big black horse, the big black cat immediately lowered his own cultivation level. It looks almost like an ordinary little milk cat. Uncle Ma, do you think I can do this? The big black cat also specially sent a message to the big black horse. Okay, remember, you are just protecting the safety of the eldest lady. You must keep a low profile and you must not steal the limelight from the eldest lady. The big black horse on the other side bared its teeth and sent out a message, affirming the big black cat's low-key behavior. Su Wanyi felt something fell on her shoulder. When she looked down, she found that it was the big black cat. Before Su Wanyi could speak, the big black cat grinned, sent out a message, and said with a smile, Miss, you don't have to say anything. The master asked me to follow you. Su Wanyi nodded slightly, her heart warmed and she was infinitely moved. This is because our ancestors were worried about themselves, so they let the big black cat follow them to protect themselves. As soon as Su Wanyi appeared outside the city lord's palace, her shining golden robe caught everyone's attention. She has a graceful figure and carries a red sword on her back, which makes her even more heroic and charming. It is difficult to describe her beautiful grace with words. Sister, Are you also here to participate in the Sanyuan Martial Arts Association? A little girl in green clothes with a sword on her back took 2 steps to catch up with Su Wanyi and asked with a smile beside her. Right, Amelia Su nodded. This little girl in green is about 15 or 16 years old. She looks similar to Luoli, but her cultivation level is really not low. She has already reached the 2nd level of Yuan High Realm. She has a plump apple face, a pair of big watery eyes, and long eyelashes, which makes her very cute. That's great, sister, I'm here to participate in the Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament too, the little girl in green smiled. Just in time, Su Wanyi smiled, and the 2 of them walked side by side towards the City Lord's mansion, entered the City Lord's mansion. Su Wanyi looked around and was thinking about the next step. At this time, I heard the little girl in green next to me say with a smile, Sister, judging from your appearance, it must be your first time to participate in the Sanyuan Martial Arts Tournament. Amelia Su nodded. The ancestor brought her here, and now she entered the City Lord's mansion. She was still confused and didn't understand anything about this Sanyuan Martial Arts Association. The little girl in green smiled and explained, the Sanyuan Martial Arts competition is held every 3 years by all the forces around Silver Moon City. Anyone under the age of 20 and with a cultivation level in the Yuan High Realm can participate. The top 3 in the Martial Arts Association represent Tian Yuan, Earth Yuan and Ren Yuan. These 3 people will not only receive rewards from the City Lord, but will also be chosen by powerful sects and be admitted as inner disciples. After hearing the introduction from the little girl in green, Su Wanyi nodded. She has some understanding of the Sanyuan Martial Arts Club. Boom. Not far away, there was a sudden loud noise, and countless people nearby cheered enthusiastically. The little girl in green looked over there, with an excited expression on her face. She tugged on the corner of Su Wanyi's clothes and said with a smile, Sister, there is a force testing stone there. Let's go and test it.